this is going to be how to put interior zipper pocket in pretty much any bag that you make, whether the pattern calls for it or not. I'm doing this video for a couple of ladies in my Bonnie Bucket bag class, but this can apply to any bag that you're making. So I have one of the interior linings for my Bonnie bag here. I have a pocket facing, which is 10 by 4, and then I have my pocket panel, which in this case is about 10.5 by 15. Depending on what bag you're putting it in and how big your lining is, how big a pocket you can accommodate, all that sort of thing, you may want your pocket panel to be a little bigger or smaller, like I said, based on the size of your bag. I have a 10.5-inch zipper here. That's going to be longer than we need, but I'm going to start out by taking my pocket facing, and there are other ways to do this, but I prefer this way because it actually hides the zipper tape once it's put in, so when you look inside your pocket, you're not seeing all the raw edges of the zipper tape, even though it doesn't fray or anything like that. Sometimes it can just look a little unfinished if you are a little particular about that sort of thing. So I'm going to start off with my pocket facing, and I'm going to be drawing a box on the back side of it that is, lost my ruler, that is 9 by, let's just say we'll do 8.5. So we'll find the center. You want to have a little bit of room on either side once you have this in. So I'm just going to find my center, and then I'm going to make a box that's about 8.5 inches long. In this case, I'm going to use a 3/8 of an inch measurement to make the box 3/8 of an inch tall. If you were using, usually with a number 3 zipper, I like to use a 3/8 inch box with a number 4.5 or a 5, which looks more like this. You will see the difference in the width of the zipper tape there. I'll get that out of the way. So this is a number 5 zipper, and this is a number 3. You would use these on the outer part of your bag with the bigger zipper pull. These are usually okay for the inner pockets where they're a little bit lighter usually. So because I'm using a number 3 zipper, we're going to do the box 3/8 of an inch. If you were using the bigger number 4.5 or 5 zipper, I would draw my box at 1/2 an inch instead of the 3/8. Usually before I sew it, I like to draw a line right down the middle, almost from end to end, and then you draw a little V right into the corners. This is going to be the line where you cut the facing open once it's sewn onto your lining. So for now, we're just going to need the facing and the lining of your bag. Placement here is, wherever you think it will function nicely. I'm going to choose to put it maybe a couple inches below the top of the bag, and you don't have to worry that this is overlapping or it's bigger because you'll be trimming this, the excess here down later. So we're just worried about where the actual box is because that's where the zipper will be going. So I'm going to take this and sew it on the machine. I usually like to start sewing somewhere around here or here, where somewhere along these long lines. You don't want to start right in the corner because it's very important for this method that your corners be extremely clean. If you start here and you sew along and then you go like one stitch past your corner here, that's going to be your new corner. You don't want to back up and then get back on the line, because when you flip this the way it has to go, that corner is not going to lay nice and flat. So you want to make sure you stitch right to your corner, stitch down and pivot and stitch across, come back up, back over, and then just go a couple of stitches past where you started. So I will go and do that now. If you prefer to pin this in place so it doesn't move anywhere, you can do that. If not, we can just go ahead and sew it. Okay, so we're all done with that. You can see if you look on the back here, we've got the box sewn. Corners are nice and clean. Normally I would cut this with a rotary cutter, the long straight part of it, but just so we have it on camera, I'm going to just cut it with my scissors today. So I'm going to fold this in half, cut a little opening for myself, and then I'm just going to cut right through all the layers, all the way down that line till I get to the end of my V. Now it's important when you're doing this part that you clip right into the very corner, but not through your thread. You want to be right up to that corner, but don't clip your stitches. So my favorite for doing this is my Karen K. Buckley scissors, because I can literally put the tip right at the corner and just clip, and it cuts right up to the tip of the scissors. And there's that one. So see, we're right up to the very corner there. And then we'll just clip the other side as well. So after you're done that, we can flip it over and make sure that we haven't actually clipped any of our threads. If you're using a matching thread, both top and bottom, that might be a little bit harder to see. And then what I like to do is I like to fold this down right where I've stitched and give it a good press so that you're sort of setting that seam. Then we're going to do it on the other side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull that right through the hole. So we can flip it over, and we're going to pull that facing right through and fiddle around with it until you get everything to lay nice and flat. Now what you want to do is you want to get that seam line right there. Make sure that's on camera. Right there, right on the edge of the hole that you just made. So we can maneuver that into place and make sure that corner's nice and clean. And then we can just iron it down. Give it a little bit of steam. And we'll get the top side into place. And there we go. There's the opening for your zipper pocket. So now we get some double-sided tape, my favorite to use for putting these pockets in, and we'll put the zipper in place. So this is most commonly referred to as Wonder Tape. It's a 1/4 inch double-sided washable tape, and I just like to use it instead of pinning for putting my zippers into place, as I said. So I'm just going to mark my zipper a little bit longer than what my opening is, so I know how far I need to put my tape, because I don't need to waste it all the way out on the ends of the zipper when there's going to be nothing there. I like to put mine so that it's just slightly overhanging the edge of the tape, the zipper tape, not the double-sided tape. You can see there it's just ever so slightly hanging over the edge. If you put it so that it's very even with the edge, you sometimes end up with your tape a little too close to the teeth, and you're not going to be stitching that close to the teeth. So you end up with a bit of tape sticking out the inside of your opening when you have your zipper all nicely installed. And that doesn't always look all that nice. So I usually just put it on so that it's overhanging the edge a little bit. And then once we sew the pocket panel in, that'll all get covered up and you won't see it anyway. And it's already done its job by holding your zipper in. Sometimes people find this tape a little bit difficult to get the paper started, to take it off. When you put this on, you're going to have a sticky side on one side, paper side on the other. You're going to peel that paper off. I find if I actually tear the tape off the roll when I get to the end, it makes it a little bit easier to get it started. So I like to pull my zipper head in a little bit, and then I am going to just put the hole right at the end of my zipper there, and I'm just going to push down a little bit on the end to hold that in place. And then I want to make sure that my zipper is nice and straight, and I'm going to center it at the other end and then just push it into the tape. If you just lightly set the tape, you can fiddle with it and move it around until you're happy with the placement. Once I get everything all nice and straight, I like to give it a good push into the tape, and that really holds it in place and makes sure it's not going to move on you when you're sewing it in. So get it all nice and straight and push it in place. And that's going to hold it nice and secure. So now I'm going to sew a box around my zipper. I'm basically going to top stitch this in, and when I'm going to start somewhere around here, kind of like I did with sewing the facing on, and that's to stay out of the way of my zipper teeth. You'll put your zipper foot on right now, and you will stitch from here all the way down, across, back across the bottom. And when you get to about here, you're going to leave your needle down. You are going to lift your foot up, and you are going to pull your zipper head behind your foot. You don't want to sew past the zipper head. No matter what you do, there's always going to be a little bump there in the zipper, and it's going to look like a little wobbly line. And if you're using contrasting thread, it's not going to look good. It takes 2 seconds to do. So you'll stop here, pull the zipper head behind your foot, and then continue around so that you can finish off your complete box. I start here because that means by the time I have to move my zipper head, I've already sewn, more than 3/4 of the box around. So, the zipper is very nice and stable when you get to that point, and then I just continue and finish off. I like to leave my threads longer so that I can pull them towards the back and tie them off. It's up to you whether you want to do a few stitches in place or back stitch or whatever. So I'll sew that in, and then I'll come back to show you the next. Okay, so we're all done. This is what it looks like from the back side. I've pulled my threads through, and I'll just tie those off and clip them. From the front side, this is what it looks like. A nicely sewn in zipper. You can see how neat and tidy that looks. And when you open it up, you just open up into your pocket. Now that doesn't look all nice and finished yet because we don't have the pocket panel on. So I like to close the zipper back up, and then I'm going to put the pocket panel face down, and you want to do it about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch above the edge of your zipper tape, just to make sure you've got enough seam allowance there. And then what I'm going to do is pin this in place, and I will show you where you need to sew. So I like to lift both these layers up and pin from this side because that's the side we're going to be sewing from. So I just kind of pull that up and put some pins in. And you're only worried about putting that top side in place right now. We will worry about the bottom side after. So when you get to the machine, you're going to flip this over and you're going to pull this right back. And if you pull back your corner, you're going to be able to see where the corner of your little box is that you've sewn here. So I usually just mark a little line right there, and I mark a line on the other end. And now I'm going to sew right along here in this ditch. You want to get as close as you can to this ditch without actually catching the fold of this fabric. The closer you can get to in this ditch, the neater your pocket will look when you look inside. So I'm going to take that back to the machine, and I'm going to sew right from the line that I made here to the line that I made here, and I'm going to sneak it right in there, and I'll be back. Okay, so we're done that side. Just going to clip my threads. We can take our pins out. And then we are going to do it to the bottom side. So what we're going to do here is we're going to, I just like to have the zipper closed when I'm working with putting things into place. It just stabilizes it and makes sure that it stays nice and straight. Once you've got things pinned into place, you can unzip it wherever you need to. So I'm going to take my pocket panel here, and I'm going to flip it over on top of itself, and keeping with going about 3/4 of an inch or so past the edge of my zipper tape, I'm going to pin that into place on the bottom side of the pocket, or on the bottom side of the zipper. And I want to be over here again. So same idea, you're going to, if this was the wrong side of your purse lining, you'd have it so that the pocket was coming down like this. The zipper is there on the right side. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to flip this over like you did on the top side, making sure that all these panels are out of the way. And you're going to pull that back, and you're going to find the corner of your box again and mark right there, and the corner of your box down here and mark right there, and then we're going to sew right in that ditch again without catching the fold from this fabric. So I'm going to give this a shot. I hope it doesn't bobble around all over the place because you don't even want to know what I've got set up as a tripod. So anyway, so that you can see exactly where I'm stitching and how I have it under the machine. So I've got it under and I'm starting stitching right at my little mark here. So I'm going to put it right in place and put my foot down. And then I'm going to lower my needle. See what I mean? Hopefully I cannot bump that again. And then I'm just going to start stitching so that I'm right in this little ditch right along here. And when you get closer to the end, you're going to have to stop and put your needle down, just like we did while sewing the box. Put your foot up and pull your zipper head in behind your foot. Sometimes it's a little bit temperamental. And if you absolutely have to, you can take it out of the machine and start stitching again 1 or 2 stitches over where you left off to get that zipper head past your foot. You don't really want to do that if you don't have to when you're top stitching though. And then I'm just going to stitch up to my little mark right here. And we're done that part. So you can see right here, I've stitched, that's the edge of the little box that we cut. And if I can pull that tight enough, you can see the stitching. And then you can see the stitching line that I did right there, right in that ditch. So we'll go back to the ironing board and I will show you how to finish this off. Okay, so we are done that part. We have the top side sewn and we have the bottom side sewn, and we'll take out those pins. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to pick up those 2 layers, the pocket panel and the pocket facing, and I'm just going to trim that down to about, you know, with 3/8, ½ an inch seam allowance. You can trim it a little bit narrower if you want. I just don't like to cut into my zipper tape because then it starts to fray all inside and stuff. So I trim across there, making sure to leave the lining panel intact. And I will trim across the top, making sure to only trim my facing and my pocket panel. And now all we have to do is finish sewing the panel up. Now, if you were putting one of these in to a purse that didn't call for an inner pocket, you may find that they have you turn the purse out and leave a hole in your lining or something like that. I actually like to add these so that I can actually turn the purse through the pocket if that's possible. So if I'm doing one like this, which I am going to be doing for the Bonnie, I will take that pocket panel and I will actually cut open the bottom. If you're not going to be turning your purse through the pocket, then you don't need to worry about doing this. You can just leave that intact. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it back to the machine and I'm going to flip it over like that, pull the lining back out of the way, and I'm going to stitch right up the side of the pocket panel getting as close as I can to here, to the fold here, because that's where the edge of my little box is that I use to sew my zipper in. So I'm just going to do that on both sides. Pull the lining out of the way, stitch right from the bottom up right to the top, as close as you can to this fold. And then I'm going to be doing the same on the other side, right from the bottom over here, right to the top, as close as I can to the fold on this side. Okay, so we're all done here. I already did this part, but apparently I forgot to push play on the video. So this would have been here. I would have had some excess zipper here. So I trimmed off the excess on the sides after I sewed that up. And you can see you've got a very nice, neat, finished zipper pocket. If I had not been using a contrasting thread in the bobbin, you'd be able to open this pocket up and see that the edges of your zipper tape are nice and finished. Again, I was using black thread, so it's showing, but if I had been using a beige thread, you'd have to look pretty hard to see that. And your pocket around the zipper ends up very nice and clean, as opposed to when you just use the pocket panel as you're facing, you see all the zipper tape there still. If you are using the interior pocket to actually turn your purse, once you've got it all together and your purse is all done, you'll just pull this pocket out and you will carefully turn under your seam allowance and give it a nice press, and then you'll top stitch as close as you can to the edge of the bottom of the pocket and pop it all back in. And you are all done. Hope that was helpful. And now you can put a pocket in any purse that you make, even if the pattern doesn't call for it.